Hello everyone, today we will discuss the feedback mechanism or regulation of the hormone. Endocrine system play a very important role in maintaining and regulation of various body function by means of hormones. And the hormones, its secretion to the blood circulation, it is mostly regulated by a specialized homeostatic mechanism which is known as feedback. A feedback mechanism it tends to accelerate or inhibit the secretion of the hormone. So a feedback mechanism means it either elevated or inhibit the release of hormone. Most of the endocrine gland, remember that they are under the control of negative feedback mechanism. So hormonal secretion are under the influence of negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism actually normalizes the things when start becoming too high or when it become extreme. A negative feedback mechanism, a stimulus produces the release of substances. Once the substance reaches a certain level, it tends to signal that stop further release of the hormone or substances. In this way, the concentration of hormone is maintained within a certain particular range. Negative feedback mechanism are explained by the release of the thyroid hormone. The thyroid gland is regulated by negative feedback mechanism. Actually, hypothalamus release hormone which stimulate the interior pituitary gland to release thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone trigger the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. Increased level of T3 and T4 and the blood circulation give feedback to the hypothalamus and interior pituitary to inhibit further signaling to the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. So what happened? Hypothalamus secrete a hormone that stimulate interior pituitary gland to stimulate the release of thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone acts on the thyroid gland to release T3 and T4. When the level of the T3 and T4 is high, it gives signal to the hypothalamus and pituitary gland to stop further secretion of thyroid hormone. Negative feedback mechanism can also be explained with the process of insulin production and its release. For example, the blood sugar level is enhances after meal. So this elevated level of blood sugar in the blood circulation releases the production of insulin from the beta cell of the pancreas. Insulin converts sugar into the cell and hence the blood sugar level they drop to certain concentration. This low blood sugar level will result the this low blood sugar level sends signal to the hypothalamus, sends signals to the beta cell of the pancreas to inhibit further release of the insulin. So the production of insulin and its inhibition is due to the negative feedback mechanism. Another important example is the regulation of blood calcium level. The parathyroid gland secrete parathyroid hormone, which regulate the level of calcium in the blood. If calcium decreases in the blood circulation, the parathyroid gland sense the decrease secretion and secrete more parathyroid hormone. The parathyroid hormone stimulate calcium release from the bone and also increase the calcium uptake into the bloodstream from the collecting tubules in the kidney. Conversely, if blood calcium increases too much, the parathyroid gland reduces parathyroid hormone production. So in this case, both responses are the example of negative feedback because in both cases, the effect are negative or opposite to the stimulus. So if the effect are negative or opposite to the stimulus, then we call it negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism are under the control of three important mechanisms. There are three important stimulus. They are responsible for the negative feedback mechanism: humoral stimulus, hormonal stimulus, and neural stimulus. A humoral stimulus refers to the control of hormone release in response to changes in the extracellular fluid, such as blood or iron concentration in the blood. For example, an elevated blood glucose level in the blood circulation triggers the pancreatic release of insulin. So here the response or the stimulus is from the extracellular fluid. So insulin causes blood glucose level to drop, which signal the pancreas to stop producing insulin in response to negative feedback mechanism. So humoral stimulus, when the stimulus or response is generated from the extracellular fluid. Hormonal stimulus refer to the release of a hormone in response to another hormone. A number of endocrine gland release hormone when stimulated, hormones released by other endocrine gland. For example, the hypothalamus produces hormones. These hormones stimulate the interior portion of the pituitary gland to release hormones, and the interior pituitary hormones, they release hormones that regulate hormones producing by from other endocrine glands. So here the hormonal stimulus means that hormone is released in response to the stimulus given by other hormones. Neural stimulus, here the nervous system directly stimulate the endocrine gland to release hormone. For example, in case of stressful event, what happened, the sympathetic nervous system directly stimulate the adrenal medulla to release epinephrine and norepinephrine. So here the stimulus is from the neural origin. So neural stimuli means when the stimulus is from the sympathetic nervous system. So hormone, the level of hormone are primarily controlled through negative feedback mechanism, in which rising level of hormone inhibit its further release. And three important mechanisms are involved: humoral stimulus, hormonal stimulus, and neural stimulus. Positive feedback mechanism, it occurs when the original effect of the stimulus is enhanced by the output. Here the effect is further enhanced by its output. The condition becomes extreme in this mechanism. For example, milk secretion by mothers from the mammary gland, it stimulates the release of prolactin from the pituitary gland. So prolactin further increases the secretion of the milk from the mammary gland. So here the effect is positive. For example, the release of oxytocin during parturition or during labor is an example of positive feedback mechanism, because oxytocin stimulates the muscle contraction that push the baby through the birth canal. The release of oxytocin result in stronger or augmented contraction during labor. So here again the outcome is enhances. So remember that most hormones, they are controlled by negative feedback mechanism, in which the hormone feedback to decrease its own production. In case of negative feedback, the hormone feedback to decrease its own production. This type of feedback bring things back to the normal when the start become too extreme. In case of positive feedback mechanism, which is much less common because it causes condition to become increasingly extreme. So in majority cases, we have a negative feedback mechanism. Negative feedback mechanism another means that when a stimulus is produced and they inhibit or stop the release of the hormone.